personal case, no, there was no discipline whatsoever for any of the officers involved. Yes.
So, my name is Howard Johnson, and Michael Burke here. We live in the suburbs in Aurora, and for good reason, it was done 2.5 years ago. We wanted a nice life, and take care of himself. Jamal Hunter is my cousin. My cousin-in-law, and he is his blood brother. And I didn't know about the scalding because they just lived, his uncle just lived just 2 blocks from me. And I was just riveted. I'm like, well, really? Because he didn't know who his father was. So Val is his father, Pierre is his grandfather who ran Pierre Supper Club. That is his Jamal's grandfather is Pierre. And so when I heard it, like, yeah, I went over there to stop by to say hi, and like, did you hear? I said, yeah, I heard about that. I was very disturbed. I saw the pictures. He's our cousin. He knew he's our cousin. He's Val's son. He knew he's Val's son. He came from D.C. Val was in D.C. They was Iowa lady. Long story short, Val never knew. Mother thought this boy wants to know who his dad is. It's Valcourt Pierre. And so he came. His grandfather runs the Pierre Supper Club. He came to that supper club. He came to Denver to meet his father. And he was here for 16 years. And then that happened. It was on a domestic abuse call, and as far as I knew, he was cooperating, and it just seems like there is an atmosphere there, like we see it as, oh wow, this, it seems like historically it's been underneath the rug and in the dark, that it's always been, because if you can just do this shamelessly without any feeling, I mean, and so he left. So he comes to meet his father. He was only here for 16 years, and he said he got $3.5 million for that. And he said, I have to leave. I'm afraid if I stay here, they know who I am. They will murder me. And he went to take his money, and he's in Ohio. That kind of defeated the whole purpose of why he was here. And then it caught the reason why he was here is why he was, I just, where does it stop? It doesn't seem like the system is so intertwined into not protecting the guilty. These are criminals who have badges. How does one feel safe, and how does one, try to protect? I have 2 African American males, come to Denver for every day here, but as they're getting older, and more importantly, how do we, ring the bell? What help do we need of us?
Yes, no, that's great. Involvement would be step one. Getting involved in these types of, having this seminar, having this discussion is great. Being able to segue off of this into other things, whether that's know your rights trainings or whether that's involvement outside of the classroom in the community, bringing the community in the classroom and the classroom into the community. But no, also having that real understanding, and the understanding with the gravity of that, yes, these kinds of things can happen to you. When we do know your rights trainings, some of the key things that we talk about are, if you're pulled over, one, let the officer tell you why you've been stopped. Don't admit to anything off the top. The officer pulls you over, and the officer says, do you know why I've stopped you? And you say, well, it's because I ran that stop sign, or it's because I was going too fast. You're now admitting to things that could incriminate you and lead to further questioning. You want to let the officer tell you why you've been stopped. And another thing, if you're walking down the street or if you're in a car, an officer stops you and they start just rummaging through your things, silence is consent. So if you don't say, I don't consent to a search, your silence is consent to a search, and that's what that would look like in a court of law. And juveniles, people under the age of 18 can always freeze a conversation and tell the officer, I'd like you to contact my guardian before this goes any further. Knowing how to file complaints, not necessarily relying on internal affairs, but there's the independent monitor, knowing that you can write your own narrative as soon as you have access to a pen and paper, so it's fresh in your mind. You're not forgetting key components. You also want to have documentation, knowing how to track the officers who stop you. That you can ask for a badge number, you can ask for a business card. The numbers on their squad car can be traced and routed. So if they don't have a badge or a business card, they won't give you their badge number, or you don't feel comfortable asking, you can always call dispatch later and say I was stopped on so and so. You know, what officer responded to this scene? You know, or this was the squad car that was here. This is the number I have. But knowing those kinds of things, like that's just that. They don't have know your rights training that happen in high school. So I would say getting involved in, you know, not scaring your kids, obviously, like with just harsh, harsh realities, but preparing, you know, preparing for life. Because two things you have to remember is the police is step one to the larger system. So however this interaction goes is going to play a part in this larger industrial complex. Should you be ticketed, cited, arrested, whatever. And that too, you know, we have rights for a reason, and we all have a voice, and we have to be able to use that. I would always suggest that you try to preserve yourself as best as possible. An officer, so for example, an officer tried to, and we use this in the training, get me out of the car when we were pulled over, and actually not far from here, 2 blocks down the street. And I tried to hand him my license through the window. I said, "Your business is with the driver. I'd like to remain in the vehicle. I can give you any information you need." He said, "If you don't get out of the car, I'm going to smash this window and I'm going to drag you from the back." And I believed him. This was a couple weeks after I got my stitches out of my face. So in an instance like that, I would step from the vehicle while saying, "I don't consent to this search. I don't consent to this search." So should they find anything, they're going to do what they want to do. I protected my grounds for the courtroom. Should I have to go to the courtroom? So having an understanding and for preparation, being involved. And I don't know if there's a way we can all stay in touch after this, but if I can, anybody wants to leave me their email address, I can connect you with other things. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question about what you're saying there, though, because it seemed like in your case, you did everything right. And so even you're just saying, "Where's your warrant?" That was well within your rights, but it incited anger. Or it seems to be kind of what tips people off. So, I mean, yeah, what would you say about that? I feel like, sure, we could prepare our youth for that, but it seems it's definitely more an issue on the police end than how our kids are behaving when they're stopped by police.
Certainly, no, and that you're right. You know, at the end of the day, these are not things that are going to prevent violence. In my case, all that needed to happen was the officer would have had to explain why they didn't need a warrant, put handcuffs on me, said that you're simply being detained and you're not even under arrest. Please sit on the curb. That's all that had to happen there. And those officers were the ones that created this violent altercation. But that's just that, you know, I never advocate for fearing police, and I always advocate for folks to have, to be assertive of their constitutional rights. Yeah, this is the ugly world we live in, you know, where 19-year-old black males can drive down the street and be profiled and beaten for asking for a warrant. If it went around again in this type of, and this has happened, you know, even now when I'm pulled over by police, I always challenge anything I think is unconstitutional. As soon as I'm stopped, you know, I've already got my mom on the phone before my car stopped, and that's just sitting on the dash. And she's either recording, or sometimes if I can't reach somebody, I'll just turn my recorder on, video camera, and just let it sit on the dash. But if something's if it just feels wrong, I'm still going to challenge it.